Hey everyone, I'm Laura from the Teen Room, and I'm back with part 3 of our Girls Who Code at Home series. Thanks for tuning in for another week. If you're new to this series and found yourself here in week 3, you want to find parts 1 and 2 on the Bellwood Public Library Teen page by going to the Bellwood Public Library homepage here, finding Teen Central, and then finding our Girls Who Code at Home page under Teens Learn Online. All right, you'll see part 2 at the top and part 1 right underneath, so it's really easy for you guys to find. Again, before we get started, you'll want to open up your activity PDF like you've been using for the past few weeks, which you can find under our Teen Virtual Programs by finding the Girls Who Code at Home and then clicking this link right here. You'll be following a little more closely with the PDF this week. I will be showing you some, HTML basics, but a lot of the content is going to come from your PDF, so you will want to have this open, and it also is really helpful when you need to follow links. You can find them right in the PDF and take them where you need to go. If you need a refresher, this is what our series is looking like. We are here in week 3, Intro to HTML, where we're going to build the framework for our site using HTML. And in the next few weeks, we'll be adding style elements with CSS. All right, let's go ahead and get started. As usual, we're going to kick off the program with our Women in Tech Spotlight, taking a look at what women are doing in the industry. And this week we're looking at Misha Addy. I'm going to go ahead and read to you from the PDF activity kit so you can follow along if you wish. Bartering, the practice of exchanging goods and services for other goods and services without using money or other currency, dates back to 6000 BC. That's about 8,000 years ago. While bartering may seem ancient, entrepreneur Misha Addy disrupted the on-demand services market by co-founding and sharing a successful online bartering platform called SkillTap Inc. as CEO. The app helps people who do not have a steady flow of cash access the goods and services they need. Before working in technology, Misha worked in law and consulting. However, she sought a role where she could have the most social impact. Technology provided her the best platform for social change. After working as a CEO of SkillTap for 3 years, she moved to Ghana and currently advises startups on technology and entrepreneurship. We're going to go ahead and watch this video from Blavity to learn a little bit more about Misha's inspiration for SkillTap and her journey into the tech world.
My name is Misha Addy. I live in Northern California, Bay Area. I'm a transplant from New York. I recently started a company earlier this year. It's a tech-based platform that enables people to exchange services without paying cash. So it's basically a cash-free barter system. It's called SkillTap, and it's already had, this is its second name, it's already had multiple iterations. I was working at a law firm in New York, and I had always wanted to do sort of social impact, social innovation work, but I wasn't sure what I would do or like what role I would play. And so I took some time to get clarity on what it was that I was good at, what it was that I could contribute to that space. We came up with this idea of having a bartering system. And it's actually my youngest sister who had taught in Spain for a couple of years, and during the financial crisis, Spaniards were bartering instead of paying cash for things, and it was sort of like a necessity-based thing. And bartering is the oldest system in the world, so this is not surprising at all. But she introduced that idea as a way to help senior citizens get access to services. I started developing this idea, and I started looking at it more broadly, not just targeting the senior demographic, but looking at people all ages and seeing what is the type of person that can't afford to pay cash for, a business consultant to help them with their community garden, or a lawyer to help them with their, their employment agreement, that type of thing. What is the type of person who needs this service? And the reality is it's people in their 20s, people in their 30s, sometimes people who have kids who just don't have enough cash flow to throw at a professional service. Sometimes it is the older folks. So I began to expand the demographic but like focus more on what I understand is called a psychographic, which is just like it's a circumstances-based profile. The type of user who would use the services is someone who doesn't have the cash to spend on professional services rather than a specific age range. At first, I was relying on a member of the group who had sold a company, an energy-based company in Chicago a couple years ago, because he just knew a lot about entrepreneurship and developing businesses, and he was really helpful in building my confidence that I can kind of get proof of concept before spending a bunch of money on the business. But since then, I've met people in Silicon Valley and reached out to friends of friends, and I just feel like I have a sort of a big advisor group that's helping get this prototype launched, and it should be released in July of this year. So it went from fuzzy idea based on Spanish bartering to web platform released this summer in less than a year. Working as a lawyer, an M&A lawyer in New York, wasn't any better in terms of like work-life balance. I had probably just as much free time, but the work itself wasn't fulfilling. So it's to work on something you care about passionately, even though you don't get a lot of like personal free time, it's just night and day. Like, so if folks are out there working for whatever it is, professional services firms, and you're feeling like, I don't know if I want to be an entrepreneur because it's a lot of work. Like, you may be working just as hard, but on something you don't care about, and that's probably the worst position to be in. So I think work-life balance isn't great, but it's the work itself that I think is kind of carries me through. I would just say, like, go for it. If you feel like you don't have the credentials, or you don't have the capital, or whatever it is, if you focus on the problem and you listen and you have an open mind and you're empathetic with the people who are using your product or your platform, you will get to a place where you're in the zone. And I just encourage people to take that risk and do it. And I hope that for folks who are watching your series, they see enough examples of women who are just doing them that they feel motivated to get all that nonsense and work, right?
All right. So hopefully you've noticed while we've been doing these Women in Tech Spotlights that there's a lot you can do in the tech world and with programming skills to meet practical needs and champion causes that you're passionate about, as Misha talked about in her video. You can go ahead and take a look at the reflection question right here. That really talks about inspiration. So how did she find inspiration for her application, and how do you find inspiration for your own creative projects? Something to think about, maybe talk about with some friends. If you want to take some time now to go ahead and write down your thoughts, you can do that. I'm going to pause for just a bit, and then I'm going to move on and get us started with step 1. All right. So it's finally here, the week where we start working in code. And so this week we were using Toolkit, which is a text editor. And text editing is actually how you will write up your code. You may have noticed Notepad you can use on your computer if you have that. Like I have a Chromebook, and it has this text app over here, which is really great for doing text editing. There's a lot of different options. If you have one you like already, you can use that. But Toolkit will be really easy to use in this context because Girls Who Code have already created a project on there with all the basic coding for you, and you can just copy it over. Okay, so I've got your links here. The first thing you're going to want to do is create an account with Toolkit. So you can follow this link, type it into your address bar, and you will get to this page right here. And you can go ahead and click on the sign up for a free account button. Get that going so you have your account where you can save your work. I have already done that, so my account is over here in this one. And the first thing you're going to want to do after you've signed up and created your account in Toolkit is go to your activity PDF. We're going to move down. Oh, actually it looks like it's on the first page. So the starter code project that is within Toolkit, you're going to go ahead and you're going to left click or right click on this, open the link in a new tab, and then we've got the start of our website coding already in here together. Okay. I'm going to walk you through a few pieces of Trinket because this is where we'll be doing most of this week's video, is inside this text editor as I show you how to add the code in and different changes you might want to make. So the first step you'll actually want to take is you're going to want to remix the code that you've got available to you here, the starter code, so that you create a copy as your own project. Now, since I've already done this in my account, I actually have logged out, so you can see this remix button here. You go ahead and click it. I would log in and it will save this as my project. All right, so we're going to go to My Trinkets so we can see what it'll look like in yours. Okay, so I've got a couple things going on, but this is what it'll look like in yours. It'll say the Girls Who Coded Home Activist Toolkit Starter Code Remix, and then you will open that up. And this is actually where you'll be working when you start adding in the code that will personalize it to your website, okay? Real quick, some things that are going to be really important to you. We've got this right here where it says index HTML, and this is actually the tab we have open. That is the name of the document that has all the code for your front page, your home page, okay? The style.css, we actually won't work in this one today, but we will work in future weeks when we start adding those style elements. You've got the document for your take action and your about page, which is the three that they've talked about in the other steps. You may have more pages and you'll be able to add those in if you want to. You can create a new text file and then you name it. And then you could copy and paste all of this information here. And then you've got a next page, okay? I'm actually going to go ahead and delete that because I don't need it for mine, but that's what you would do. This window here with all of the code in it, back over, this is your text editor window, okay? And the window you see over here is your results panel. So it's going to show you once you put the code in. Right now you see, hello, welcome to my website. If we scroll down a little bit, you actually see the words, hello, welcome to my website in this side, inside of a bunch of the HTML, right? So you're not going to see a lot of this stuff show up on your results page because it's kind of the instructions that tell the computer how to render your stuff. But this is what you'll see once you start adding in. Your images will pop up over here, your text and things like that. I show you how to add the new file. If you want to do, you could upload, if you already have a text file saved to your computer with code in it, you could upload it right here. And this will be managing your images, okay? Which you will do. In the basic kit, they've got the pictures that they used, which you may notice from the mock-up page. You can also add more yourself by clicking on Image Library, and you actually see some of the photos that I've used for the project. But you'll add those there and you can drag them from the folder you've saved on your desktop, or you can just upload them. The other two buttons that'll be important are the save button. It does autosave, but as you may recall from an assignment you've worked on before, anything, if you accidentally close it out, you could lose any of the work that you've done. So I recommend saving often. And there's also the share button, which allows us to publish our page so we can see what it looks like in the full window. Okay, and we will use that step later on. Okay, so the next step is for you to go ahead and do that. Create your Trinket account, remix your project so that you have that to get ready and get started. And I will be showing you how to do that in here in a second. We're actually going to go back to our project over here. Okay. So step 2 is called I Spy HTML. We're going to take a look at some of the code that you might find in a page or a project before we actually start doing it ourselves. And so this is the part where we're going to follow along pretty closely with the activity PDF. You don't want to skip this part because it's going to point out a lot of useful information about HTML and how it works and how different tags operate. So you at least want to look at the PDF because it'll give you a question to look at, and then it will give you kind of the observation that it's looking for. Okay. You can go ahead and type this URL into your address bar to get to the example project, or you can go to your PDF kit, and we're going to scroll down past all this really good information. And right here where it says example trinket project about cute baby animals, we're going to open that in a new tab. All right, so as you can see, this looks a little bit different. It's got some really cute baby piggies, baby skunks. Aren't they cute? All right, so this is what it actually looks like when the code is rendered, but this is what the code looks like over here. And we're going to take a look at a few different images, which you can also see they are captured inside your PDF activity kit, so you don't actually have to look at this necessarily. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through observations 1 and 2, and then I will let you do the other 4 on your own. Right. So the first question that they show us in the activity kit says, what do you notice about the colors in this chunk of code? Which words show up in the result panel and which words don't show up? And why do you think that is? Okay. So what it's pointing out is the difference in color here between this information and this information. And this is what it looks like in the result page. If we go over to our trinket project, we can see that right here. Okay. And then again right here. So if you want to, you can just jot down some notes about this. We're going to go back to the slide where I actually have the observation that they want you to have. And I pulled it right from your activity PDF. So this black text shows up in the result panel and the pink words don't. And that's because the pink part is a tag. And so it's telling it what to do and how to render this in your results page. So it says here the tags and content inside the tags are called elements, and it kind of shows you what that means. This whole thing is an element. This is your opening tag, your closing tag, and this is the content. Okay, this here, the closing tag is important. If you don't have your closing tag, all the text that comes after your header tag, or the opening header tag, will be in the same size. So everything will be this size. And if you don't want it all to be that size, then that's a problem. So you want to remember to include that closing tag. All right. So that's a pretty simple part. We're going to go on to the next slide, which talks about question number 2. And again, you can find this on page 6 of your activity PDF. What do you notice about the difference between the P tag and the IMG tag? Got these arrows right here to direct you to it. But we're also going to take a look inside Trinket. All right, we're looking at this text here. Okay, so you've got the IMG or the image tag with your piglet.jpg. And then you've got the P tag or the paragraph tag around this information here. And what it looks like over here, let's start with the piglet and our picture of our piglet. So we take some notes about what you notice is the difference between those. Look at the beginning, look at the end, and then we'll move on to the observation. So the P tag has a second P tag after it, and that's the closing tag that we talked about in the last section. The IMG or image tag doesn't. And so it goes on to explain that most tags require an opening and closing tag. Sometimes you don't need them both. So for example, the image tag is self-closing. It encapsulates itself right here. Okay. It is used to link and display an image on your website. What you'll come to understand is that HTML tags consistently follow their own rules. You'll use the same ones over and over so you can use them with different pictures or different information, but it will always come out the same. Okay. And then it gives you some things you can look at here, like HTML elements reference from Mozilla, and the HTML reference from W3 Schools. And this one here I will actually show you. This is one that I had to use when I had a class that required me to do an assignment in HTML. And it was a really helpful resource. We'll go ahead and go over to the PDF activity kit, and I will show you that link. Okay, the HTML reference. And as you can see, it's got all kinds of stuff for you to look at. And it might seem a little intimidating at first. If you click on the HTML here, it'll talk to you about basics, different elements, headings, paragraphs, so you can break it down into bits and pieces if you need to. You'll also see a little bit about CSS, colors, things like that. We'll actually work with that stuff in the next coming weeks. Today we're just working about organizing our elements on the page. All right, I'm going to go back to this. This is the section where I'm going to kind of let you work through the next couple of pages in your activity PDF on your own. There are about 6 questions and observations that you want to look at, and they're going to give you some good information on header tags and nesting items, on tags that will block your elements together. They'll talk a little bit more about image and hyperlink tags, so that's if you want to link to another website outside of yours. And they're also going to talk to you a little bit about comments in your code, which is kind of like invisible text that's not going to show up on the actual page, but it helps you to keep things straight. Okay, go ahead and pause the video now, and you can jump into that, and then I will see you when you're ready for step 3. Okay, guys. Here's step 3. We're going to add tags to our wireframe. You're probably wondering, this is the section where we're supposed to start coding. Why aren't we doing it yet? But we're going to take it a little slow and do this first, because once we have all these tags on the image, like you see here, you'll know exactly which tags you need to put into that page of code, and that's where it really helps you. Okay, so right here, and this is, like I said, this is from your PDF kit almost exactly. We're talking about the different tags that make up the different portions of your website. So your body tag is going to hold all of the stuff inside this page. There's only going to be one body tag in each document. Okay. The navigational tag holds all the stuff you need for your navigation bar. So that's here, this section with these buttons. We will talk about this individually in its own step. The header tag that it talks about here is where you put your introductory content. So that might be your name of your cause or your page, and your core message that you see here. So that stuff would be included in your header. The main tag is going to put the stuff that's not your introductory, so outside of the header it's going to be your main, but it's still part of the body. Okay, and you're only going to have one main tag on a page. So you don't want to put stuff inside the main that repeats on other pages, like the navigation bar that we've got up here. We're going to have a nav bar on every single page that we do, so it's not going to go in the main. Okay. Now, for this part, you're going to need to pull out those wireframes that you made last week, and you can just write this stuff right on there, just like you see in this image. Some other tags you'll want to be thinking about, because you're going to put them onto your wireframe as well. You can see, if you go to your activity PDF, you'll get a full table, including these tags and a few more that you can use this week. And I will show you right here. If we go all the way down to the end, we've got our HTML tag reference. And as you can see, it's a bit bigger table. Scroll back up to our wireframes. Okay. But you'll definitely be using these header tags to do your headline text, the bigger text here. You'll be using this, which is called an unordered or ordered list, to create bullets, bullet points, or numbered items inside your action page when you do your action steps. This P tag is for paragraphs of text. And if you looked at some of the observations from the last step, they talked about this and how it creates different sections of text. You've got your A tag, which is how you start your links You see here it's A. So if we need to put in a hyperlink to another page, we can do that, which you'll be doing both in your navigation bar, and you may choose to do that on your page as well. And then we've got our image tags. So you should have collected some images while you were working in your planning stages, and this is how you'll put them into your web page. All right, so we're going to talk about one other type of tag called a div tag, but I want you to look at these images as well. I pulled them from the PDF. So in addition to the navigation header, main, and body that you saw on the last slide, you're also going to want to put in those ones that I just showed you, like your header tags, your paragraph tags, your image tags, and your list tags. Okay, so that will actually be in the nav bar. And you can also see it on your take action page where you have the addition of the unordered lists here, where we'll create a checklist. Okay, now these div tags, they create different sections within your page. And so for this portion, we're going to put them around each image will have its own div tag, but also if you have a group of images. So you will have, this will be a little bit of the nesting we talked about. So you would open a div tag and open a second div tag for this. And then after you've ended all three of these with the closing tags, you would also have to do a closing tag for the big section. And we'll see that when I show you the code. So if that sounds a little confusing, that's totally okay. We're going to go over it again. For now, you just need to draw it into your wireframe. One last thing I'd like to point out on the take action page is that if you notice, there's different sizes to this text. And if you see there's the H1 tag here, H2 tag here, and H3 tag here. So that's how those are used to differentiate the sizes and the importance of the information. All right. You're also going to use the div tag around your checklist section, which includes that header tag and your list tags. Okay. Like I said, this might sound a little confusing. Go ahead and draw it into your wireframe now. On all three pages, I don't have an image of the about page, but you'll be doing that one as well. And then we'll move into the next step. So I'll give you a moment here. All right, let's go ahead and move on, guys. So we're ready for step 4. Once you've placed all those tags and drawn them into your wireframe, we're now going to make sure that all of those end up in our Trinket project code. Okay, and I will show you that. So for now, we're just going to focus on everything on the home page except for the navigational bar, which we'll work on in its own step. So we're going to break this down into stages. We're going to add the tags into the wireframe first without the information. Then we'll pull the text that we used on our mockup from last week. So your headers, your core message, your body text. You're going to need all of that, and you're going to actually place it into the text code. And then we'll talk about adding in your images. And all of this stuff I'm going to show you in Trinket. So for a little bit, we're going to move over to that tab and start working on that. I'm going to close out our cute animals, which you should have looked at a little earlier. And then I'm going to pull up our starter code. Okay, so this is exactly what you're going to see when you first open up your remixed project that's got your content, right? And we're going to start adding in tags. So if we look back at our wireframe and we're going to put in, so it's got the nav tags here, we're going to ignore that one section for a little bit because we're going to move on to the header. So, okay, so we're starting out with the remixed project and we need to add some stuff in. The first thing you're going to want to think about is the tags that you need to put in for how you're going to make it look. Now, I followed the layout that they used in their mockup, and so that's how my tags are going to be added in. You'll notice they already have your first header tag for you, which is where you'll put the name of your website. So that's already there. So you could put in here, if you still want it to be big, your core message or your call to action, or the mission of your website. Okay. So for that, I might choose to do an H2 tag. And what you'll notice, I just typed that in, you know, open caret, H2, closed caret, and then it added this section right here for me. So it's already ending or adding in the closing tag because that tag needs it. So all I have to do is type in between there. Okay, so I can put, and we will go about adding in the text. So first I'm putting that in, okay? So that's all I really got for my header. You may have images in your header, so you may want to put those in. I decided to follow what they've got, which is the 3 images all together. Okay. So we talked about, and you'll see this on page 10 of your PDF. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. This here, where you've got your div tags and your images, I'm going to show you what that looks like right now by adding that into your main, okay? So you're going to do your div tag. And once I've created it, it immediately creates the end one, but I know I need a lot of stuff in there. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to create the second div tag for my first image. Go ahead and hit enter again. Then I'm going to put my image tag. Now with this, you can consult the PDF, or you can consult the earlier portion of the video. I'm going to go in here and look at, should show me my tag. So for my image tag, it's going to look like this. Okay, and I'm going to pull that right there. Easy way to do it if you want to pull it from there. Get rid of my image tag right here, and then I'm going to paste as plain text. All right. Now it's not showing it right here. You'll see it says kitten, but it's showing a little broken image, and that's because I don't have any images in my image library that are titled kitten.jpg. So that one doesn't work. But what we'll do is just delete that information because we just need the tag for now. So we know that that's going to be okay. And then that's inside its own div tag, which is closed. All right, so that's my first image. Then I'm going to create another one. Let me scroll down so you can see it. For my next image, okay? And so I'm just going to type in and copy what we pasted above. And this alt that you see right here that I'm just typing right now, that's going to be your alternative text. So when you were making your mock-up in your wireframe, you should have written down alternative text, which we talked about was for accessibility. So for people who don't have the best eyesight or have trouble seeing or maybe blind, they can use some kind of reader that will read the alternate text and tell them what the image actually shows. So that's what will go in there. Okay, so that's that one, and then I will go outside of that and create one last one for my third image. Okay. Right, so those are my tags. Doesn't have my information in just yet. And that'll be for my images. Okay. If I'm going to put in more text, say I want my images to be before my text, I might take this portion out. I'm going to cut that and remove it. And then you'll see over here, it's gone. I'm going to go ahead and save now because it's been a little bit. And then, so I want underneath my images, which the last div tag is here. So I'm going to start here. And you can create a little space, it's okay. Right. So what I'm going to add in here is maybe I have some information that I want people to know. And so I'll put in my second header, or H2. And then it's got my ending tag that popped up. And I can put information in there. Info, for now. Since we're just, and that's what it'll look like. And then I can put in my paragraph tag, because that's where I'm going to put text. Okay. And it'll show up like this. So those are the basic tags that I'm going to use for my homepage. You may use something a little different. You may put them in a slightly different place depending on how you want to do it. So maybe your information's all coming first. So it would be up here at the beginning of your main and then your images. Maybe you only have one image and it's a really big one and maybe you want it in your header. Basically, you're just going to use these tags and put them in the placement where you want them. Okay. Now that I've placed the tags that I know I'm going to want on my page, the next step is to add in all that text, the actual text. So I've actually done that. I created a second, just remixed the project, made a copy of it. So I've got the information I want in there here. So I'm going to copy this information from my project and I'm going to put it in where it was in the other one. So this is my header information here. I've got my H1 and I've got my paragraph of text. I might actually change that a little bit, but I'm going to copy that and I'm going to bring it over here. So where I had my hello and core message, I'm going to place it right here. And there we go, that popped up. What I am going to do is I'm going to change this because if this is my core message, then I want it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make this an H2. Okay. Oop, a little too far. And then I need to close that with my H2. Okay. So that it only works on this. And that is my text that I would have pulled from my mockup. Okay, now for the bottom down here where I have my info and my text, I also did that a little bit different over here. So I will go and show you what that looks like. So my information is just kind of a did you know section. Yours may look a little different and that's totally fine. Oh. I didn't add these tags in and I should have done that first. So I'll explain this a little to you. I decided that I wanted my did you know section to be a bullet list. Now it's not showing the bullets over here, but it may show them as the end result. So we're going to keep this in. It's an unordered list using that UL tag, which also has to have a close tag here. And then I've got my list items. Each one is on a separate line. So you'll see this. Here, creates that, and then the end tag. I also added a link in mine, so I also used the link tag down here, which you can do. And I'm just going to take all of this. Copy that, and then I'm going to place it over here in place of my info and text. And there it is, it's popping up here. Okay. So you might see this tag here. I added in, that's a line break tag. And that just means what it shows up over here as is this little space. So there's a little bit distance between the link that I've created and the information. All right, so you are going to want to use that table that I showed you in, go back a few slides. You are going to want to use this table or the table on page 17 because it's going to tell you a lot of the tags that you're going to need. You may be trying to do something with your website that's a little bit different or a little more ambitious than the example that Girls Who Code have given us. And so you may need to use more of a certain type of tag than another. And we also talked about if you go to the HTML tutorial, it'll give you different tags that you can use. And it'll talk you through those if you're having a little trouble. Okay, I'll show you what they look like. It's got options for you to try things for yourself, a little bit of experimenting with some of these. So this is a really great resource and use it if you're having any confusion. So the last thing we're going to talk about on this homepage before you go ahead and add all this code in and take a stab at it yourself is to put in an image. Okay, so we're going to look at the image library, and it'll show you the images that I have already added to use in my project. And so you may see that these two images here are the same. I had an issue that I was running into. Spaces are not allowed. It actually makes the code reader kind of angry. So you'll want to make sure it's all one word, or that you have an underscore in there between words. But what we're going to do is go back to our page, and I have pulled aside my image text over here. So I'm going to copy that from this text reader I've got on my computer, and I'm going to place it in where we'll see, there we go. We're going to place it in on top of the text that it would take the place of, except I'm going to use this space here. All right, there it shows one of the pictures. Okay. It's really close. So this kind of bugs me, but I know that when we do our style elements, this won't all be as close together. So I'll leave it there. What you're going to then want to do is add in the rest of your image information. And so if we go to our library, you can see the other images that I have in their name. So this is bathroom.pass.jpg. So I can go there and I can put and it should show up. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the image is gigantic, is what you'll notice, which is why when I added in the first one from the code that I already taken, I added some a little bit extra HTML that they don't talk about in the PDF that limits the size of the image, because that way I can see it. So I'm just going to take that here, and if you want to, you can type this information in the way I've shown it, and it'll do similar for you. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to add it into the correct place in my next one. And let's see what the results look like. And there we go. Now you can see the image that we talked about last week when we were talking about color, much smaller and easier to manage. Okay. All right, so our next step is to put in that third and final image. And I'm going to copy this here, just so I don't have to type it all again. Great thing about the text editor. I'm going to copy this information, and I'm going to put it in place of, actually just this here. Okay. All right, so now it's going to double that image, but I can go back to my image library. I can look at my other picture that I have, the title that it is here, and then I will just type that in place of this one. And we'll wait for the results to load. All right, let's scroll down and see, and then there's my third image, okay? So that's how you add in the images. You may have some issues, it may give you a few here and there, so play around with it and see. What I noticed for the particular images that I wanted to show, they needed to be green, which you can just do by clicking on here. I don't know what that signifies in Trinket, but if you're having an issue getting your image to show, maybe try that. Also make sure that it's named correctly, different issues that you'll come up with, okay? Now, the last step before we move on to working on the navigational bar is save it. And then we're going to look at what it'll look like when it's published on a web page. Okay, so the one last step we want to take after we save is that we're going to click the share button, because what this will do is allow us to publish and see what it looks like. Now, once we hit publish, it is on the internet and other people can see it, but they need the link to find it. And if at any time you find that you don't want to have that up there, that makes you uncomfortable, if it's not a finished product, you can hit unpublish. After you've seen what it looks like, you can hit unpublish and then it disappears. And so you can go back to editing your code. But I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it here. And then we're going to see what my page looks like with the code that I've just put in. All right, see? So it looks very similar to what it did in the results page, but you're seeing it on the whole window. And you may be saying, wow, this looks really basic. And it's very different from my mockup. That's totally okay, because once we start adding in the CSS elements next week, you will be able to move your images so they're all in line, and the same with your navigational bar and things like that. So there's more we need to add, but we're working on it. Once we've seen what that looks like, I can go ahead and close that back out and go to right back here. If I want to, I can unpublish, because maybe I don't want anyone to see it yet. And then you see this button has changed to publish rather than published. Okay. I know that that was a lot of information, guys. It's totally okay if you need to take some time, maybe go back and rewatch some of what I did in the video, look up some of those HTML help that we talked about, and try your best to get those tags in and that information. Going to move back to the slide that we're on. So, okay, go ahead and do each of these tags. If you want to, if it helps you to do your tags and your text at the same time, that's totally fine. But you can break it down into multiple steps if you need to. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and do that to your home page. You don't need to work on your action or about pages just yet, because we'll talk about some more stuff. All right, and let's move on to step 5. Just like I talked about, your navigational bar, we're going to focus in on that one in step 5 and do just that. Here's an example from the Girls Who Code page. This is what their navigational bar looks like. And these different sections here are each buttons that link you to that specific page. Now, the reason we need a navigational bar like this is because, as you saw, we're creating multiple pages, but if you don't have a way to navigate between the pages when you have your published website, then no one can see all of the great stuff you've made on your action page or your about page. They're only looking at the home page. So we need that nav bar. And what it is essentially is a list of links. So when we create it in our code, it's going to look like this. Okay, now this is the basic, so I'm only showing the link for my home page right here, but we'll be able to add extra list tags to have our about page and our action page, and those will just go in line, and I will show you that code as well. We're going to use the nav tag so that it signifies that this is the navigational portion of the website. We're going to use the unordered list tag because it doesn't need to have numbers. There's no important order at this stage, and it'll put them in the order that we list them. So you can use the unordered tag, and it'll have an open and a close tag. The nav will also have an open and a close tag. Then you have to do each list item with the li tag, and you're going to add a link tag. Okay, now what this does is it's saying that we're going to link to that page in our text editor, the index.html, which looks like this right here. Okay. And then the name that we want that to appear as will be home. And because all of our items are included in Trinket, we have each individual page. It's a local link. So we can just put this. If you're linking to another website, you will actually need to put the full, like we have up here, you'll need to put this full bit of information because it's not local. Right now, we're just worrying about that local link. Okay, and let's go ahead and look at that in Trinket. All right, so we're going to find our nav bar, which will be here. As it says, add the navigation bar here. So it's already got the nav tag and the close nav tag. So we can start immediately with our unordered list. Okay. Now it added my closing tag here, so I'm just going to hit enter. So that's there, and everything I put is between it. And then I'll start my list tag. Okay. And for this, I will then, inside that, remember, we're going to start immediately that link tag. and we're going to put the home page, index.html. And then we'll need to close that and put what we want it to show up as. So that's our home page. We type home. Let our results page populate really quick because it's trying to link everything for a bit when I didn't have that closing tag. And there it is. So if I click this, it will bring us back to this home page. Now, that's our first line of text. Remember, we're creating a list, so we have to create the second item in the list. And you can copy that information, paste in there, and it'll result, you have two, but we're going to change that to the take action. We're going to type it exactly as it says here. And we're going to change how it shows up to say take action. And in our results page, there we go. And we don't have anything on the take action page yet, but if I click the link right here, it will actually take me to that page, which looks empty because there's nothing on it. There's no text or pictures in there yet, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and copy all this information again. And then we're going to paste the whole thing, and we'll make the same changes. So this page will now be about.html, and we're going to change this text as well. Get rid of too much. And on our results page, oh, so it has two close tags, and it doesn't need two of them. There we go. So this is what your navigational bar is going to look like for right now, which looks really basic. It doesn't look anything like the example we saw from Girls Who Code, or it probably doesn't look a lot like what you wanted on your mock-up. But that's okay, because we'll be working with CSS next week to make this look different. But for now, it's functional. All right, we'll go ahead and save again. We're going to do our share step. We're going to publish to see what it looks like. Click on our link here. And there we go. I've got my navigational bar. And I should be able to click the home button, and it brings me right back to the same page. The action button is going to show a blank page like we talked about because we don't have anything in there yet, but that's okay. We know the link is working. Go ahead and close this out, unpublish. And then we're going to go back to our slide and take a look at step 6. So this is where we're going to start building the take action page. Okay, so essentially with the take action page, you are going to repeat a lot of the steps I just showed you. So you're going to put in your tags and your text, and then you're going to add in your images. The one additional thing that you might have in your take action page is an input tag, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about now. So we're going to take a look at this actually in the PDF. Scroll through all this stuff here. All right, so when we talk about building our take action page, you're going to add your nav bar like we just did, and the easiest way to do that is to copy the nav section and just paste it right in, and I will show you that. You're going to add your tags, your text, and your images like I said. We're also going to meet the input tag here. So there's a couple different ways you can do input tags, and basically what they allow you to do is add a section for your audience to interact with your website. So it can be a button like they show you here, this checkbox that tells you to check it off when you've completed an item in a list, or you could have them input text. So like a text box for them to answer a question. You can use any of these types you want. You may find that you really want one of these on your, what we're going to talk about for the action page and your action steps is this checkbox. Okay, Now this is, as you'll read here, this is the type of tag you don't have to worry about putting a closing tag after it. Okay, and when you go to put your text into the document, it's going to look like this. So you're going to add that div tag like we talked about in the wireframe. You're going to put a title on it, which can be anything you want. It could be my checklist or action steps or get involved, however you have it titled in yours. You're going to add in another unordered list, and then we're going to use this. This is a really useful function. We're going to list the items, put in that checkbox. So the input tag and the checkbox is going to be there. What they've used is a strong tag for the title of the steps, so step 1, step 2, step 3, and basically what that does is it creates bold text. And there are a couple different ways you can do that, but we're going to stick to what they've shown you for now because it's the simplest. If you want to use that, you can. These are not required. You do have to remember, once you've added your checkbox and the text that it will be in front of, to close your list item at the end of each line. Then you close your unordered list and close the divider for this section. Okay. And I will show you all of that, so it's okay, don't worry. All right, let's jump into this. So now we're going to move to our take action page. Right, and it's got place for your nav bar. Like I said, I'm just going to copy and paste mine because that's the simplest way to do it. I'm actually going to get rid of this comment here because it doesn't show up. And I'm going to take this navigational section. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over to my take action page. And where it says add the navigational bar, I'm going to add that text in place. And then we have it right here. It shows up. Now I have 2 nav bars and I don't need both of them, so I can get rid of the double text. Okay, so I've got my navigational bar put in there. You can add in your tags and the text. What I'm going to show you is just how to add in your list. So this looks very similar right here to what you've got. So I'm just going to copy that because that code will work and I can remix it, so to speak. Okay. So this is going to go in my main here where it says add checklist. All right, and it's going to pop up the same information I had before. And I'm going to type in, take these action steps. Okay, so I need to change my text, and what I've done again is I've taken the text that I would put in there and I put it in this text document over here. Now this looks like a lot. The important part are these steps here, so I'm going to keep the text. My first step is going to be go to period.org. And as you see, I've added a link in the middle of there. Unlike when we use the local files to do the link here, you do have to put the HTTPS and all that in front of it. So it'll be exactly as you pull it from the address bar. Okay. So my next step, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste these so you'll see them pop up in just a moment. Okay, so now all my text is in there the way that I want it to see. And what I'm going to do is add in the code that I need to have to add my checkbox. So if we go back and look, I need to put in input space type equals open parentheses checkbox, or open quotation mark checkbox close quotation mark, and then I close the caret. Okay, and that goes right in front of the text that I want to appear. So I'll just put it between my list tag and the text that I have for that item. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this right out of here, which you can do as well. No problem. And then I just put it in front of here. And there we go, I've got my checkbox. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy paste those for the rest of them. They'll pop up for you in just a few moments. All right, so now we see I've added the input type checkbox to each of these and it shows up here. Now, if you wanted to add in what they have with the bold, so we can go strong, because it creates my end tag for me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put step 1. And then it shows it here. And I'll go ahead and put a space because I want there to be a space there. All right, see? So I've got step 1, go to pura.org. And you can add that as well. Additionally, if you put in a link like I did, you can test it by clicking right here. And it's showing it is popping up. It's taking a little while to load, but it is populating that specific page that I linked to, so it works. If I wanted to, I can go ahead and save this now and then share. Remember, we want to look and see what it's going to look like. So I can go ahead and publish and click on my link. All right, and it's loaded my site, the front page, my images. I'm going to test the link to my take action page, and there it is, it shows up. And from there, it's also linking to that page as well. In order to go back, I need to go backwards because obviously they don't have a page linking to my website. The issue, so we haven't gotten to the About page yet. So when I go to that page with the Nav Bar, I can't get away from it because I don't have a Nav Bar on that, or I don't have a Navigational Bar on that page yet. Close this out, head back to our project. I'm going to unpublish again. But I'm going to go back here and I'm going to let you add all that stuff in. I'm going to pause for a little bit and then we will move on to step 7. All right, guys, step 7, as you guessed, could be build the About page. So it's the last page that Girls Who Code is including in their project. If you have any additional pages that you wanted to have in yours and that you've created wireframes and mockups for, you also want to add them during this stage. Like I said before, if you're feeling a little bit confused about the code, you can go back, watch what I've done in the video. You can look at some of the tutorials. As I showed you, I pulled this text right from here, so if you've got the PDF open, you can pull some of those bits of code as well from there, which will be really helpful to you. Don't forget to add your navigational bar in for your About page. This should be the first thing you do. And then the rest of it is up to you, how you put your text on there. The one thing you do want to remember is you don't want to include any personal information about yourself, like your phone number, your home address, your last name, anything that could allow a stranger on the internet to identify you or your location. Okay, you want to keep that information private. Go ahead and pause here so you guys can take a break, and then we will move on in a moment. All right, that's it. You've completed this week's phase of the project. You don't have to worry about feedback this week because your website's only about halfway done right now. You've added in the images and the text. It doesn't look quite like that awesome mock-up you made yet. And that's because it still needs the CSS style elements, which we're going to jump into in the next session. Again, there's a reminder on the screen about how you can share your project progress with Girls Who Code, by @Girls Who Code or #CodeFromHome on social media. I'll be back in 2 weeks with part 4 of the Activist Toolkit, and I hope you guys will be joining me again. It's going to get really exciting. Your pages are going to look really awesome. Take care, everyone.